Good morning. I've just done a thought for the day and realised that I wasn't live when I was doing it, so I'm going to do it again, because if you don't get it right the first time, try again. As we rejoice in the gift of this new day, so may the light of your presence, O God, set your hearts on fire with love for you, now and forever. This morning we're in the graveyard. I normally walk the dog here, but this morning he has decided he's going to sleep in. So here I am in the Grange Cemetery, surrounded by the daffodils, and I can hear the guns of the army in the background as they're testing their weapons. Not a lot of birds here today, but I'm thinking of people like my friend Poppy, whose birthday it is today. And I'm also here in the middle of nowhere in the graveyard because I want to show you a grave. This is a very small and insignificant grave, and it was discovered a year or so ago. I'm sure people in the past knew all about it because it was all over the newspapers. It reads, "Tom, an African slave boy, died at Edinburgh the 19th of April 1884, aged 13, redeemed by the precious blood of Christ, erected by the children of Rose Hall, UP Church." Now, here we are. I'm going to read from the first letter to the Philippians, chapter 1. I thank God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth and insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory of God. Now, here, let me show you this grave again, and I'll tell you a little bit about Tom. Pat from the Grange Association and I had been down at Records looking for information about Tom the slave boy, because we were very excited that we might have our very own twin from Nigeria, because Rose Hall UP Church is the church that Mary Slessor was a member of. Now, Mary Slessor now appears on banknotes, but in her day she was a missionary from Dundee who went to modern day Nigeria and lived and worked as a missionary there. And she's most famous because she saved twins, because in that culture of that day, twins were regarded as evil, and some of the twins came to Scotland and were housed with families in Scotland. But when we did a little bit of research and we went to the Records office, we found various things, including a report of his death from the 25th of April 1884, which came from the Dundee Courier. And it said that the death of a Congo lad in Edinburgh on Tuesday, the remains of Black Tom, a little Congo lad, were interned in the Grange Cemetery. On Saturday morning he burst a blood vessel, and in the evening he died. He had a companion named Theo, also from Congo. Mr. Clark, who was sent by the Livingston Inland Mission to Congo about 6 years ago, returned on furlough, bringing with him the two boys. The one who died had been purchased by himself, while the other was also a slave claimed by 3 different chiefs. Although slavery ended in Britain and America long before Tom was born, slavery did continue in Africa. and it was there that Mr. Clark purchased Tom and Theo. While in the Congo, H.M. Stanley of David Livingstone fame actually rescued Mr. Clark, and there's a record of it in The Scotsman when he talked about saving them because there had been a fire at their mission and they'd lost everything. But Mr. Clark returned to Edinburgh in 1883 with Tom and Theo, and he went on a missionary tour of Scotland and Ireland, talking about what it was like to be a missionary in Congo. And he took Tom and Theo with him. We don't know what the connection of Tom with Rosehall UP Church is, but we're doing our very best to do more investigations and try and find out a little bit more about the sad story of Tom, a 13-year-old boy who'd been brought from Congo for a new life, with all the hope of freedom and all that 19th century Edinburgh would have had in store for him. And today, we think of all the people, children and adults, who are most vulnerable at this time. Vulnerable to people who might abuse them, vulnerable to illness, vulnerable to loneliness and sadness. And we think of Tom and all the people who grieve today. I finish with St. Patrick's breastplate. Christ within me, Christ before me, Christ behind me. Christ within me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me. Christ on my right hand, Christ on my left hand. Christ where I lie, Christ where I sit, Christ where I arise. Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks to me, Christ in the eye that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me. May your salvation, Lord, be ever with us. Well, that's the thought for the day from the Grange Cemetery this morning. I look forward to meeting you all again tomorrow morning, where I'll be somewhere less windy and less cold as we have our last thought for the day before Holy Week begins. Take care and stay safe.